Welcome back to the Living for His Glory podcast. I'm here with another really good friend of mine and our special guest of the week, Blake Dials. Blake Dials, he's a supply chain salesman right here in Lexington, Kentucky. He just became a dad. He's 30 years old. We were actually supposed to have him on here about a month or two ago, but here comes the baby, kind of messed things up a little bit. Just opening up the family fills up your schedule a little bit more than not having the kid would. But we're glad to have him now. And God was working in that. Obviously, he's very blessed becoming a dad for the first time. And who knows, maybe his episode was always supposed to be now and not when we were originally planning. God's plan over ours, right, Blake?
Yes, sir. He's never late and he's never early.
That's exactly right. That's really good. I like that saying, man. How are you this morning?
Brother, I'm good. I shared with you a little bit earlier. Baby needed a passy at about 3:10 in the morning. And I guess that's just when my day was going to get started today. Wallered in bed for about an hour. I'm like, you know what? Let's just get up and get after it. And spent some time in the Word this morning. And our church has called to action, if you will, or challenged men and women. Hey, bring your Bibles and bring something to write with. Bring a hard text Bible and something to write with in church during the sermon. Take notes with. I was like, that's good. But my brain, Lucas, if I start writing while you're talking, whatever you've said in between when I'm writing, it's not landing. So what I've been doing is I just listen to the sermon like I have been, just go in person with the family. And then I've been rewatching it some point during the following week and making notes then where I can pause it and write down the scripture, or he says something really good where I'm like, I need to make note of that. I need to retain that. So got to do a little bit of that this morning, my man.
That's good. That's good. I'm the same way. I'll be in a lecture. My church history professor, he talks fast. He's really good, but he's like, you should be writing all of this down. So, yeah, he says that every class, I swear.
Yeah.
And so we'll be writing something down. And I look up after I finish writing. I'm like, all right, what did you just say? You just said you had to write something else down. I missed it.
Oh yeah.
That's
Oh yeah. My wife's much smarter than me, man. She can retain in real time and jot it down in real time. But your boy here, I got my own tricks to learn. So that's how we're doing it.
me too. I think my girlfriend is the same way. I couldn't do what she does. She's never not had an A in her entire life.
Yes.
Not even an A minus. I'm not that way. If it's an A, it's celebrated. If it's a C, it's hated. So more of a B kind of guy.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
We like B students. I'm a B student. Wife gets free ride to UK and some student loans help me go to Moorhead.
yeah.
That's where we're sitting in this seat today.
There we go, man. That's good. I discussed with you a little bit before, as I do with all my guests. We're really big on stories here. We like stories. We believe that stories, at least in the main part, are how we provide a witness to God's testimony, to God's story. It's really how we show his glory in the best way. He works through stories. The Bible itself is a written story that we get to look at and see his kingdom for the full scope that it is. And
That's
so
good.
we're just going to get a little bit into your story and go that way. So I'm going to open up the floor to you and let you cook with your story, man.
Let me cook, buddy. Hey, if I get long-winded, just rope me back in. Just
Oh,
pull me back in
I
because
will.
we're,
I've
we're we're
I've had to do it
caffeinated this
before.
morning.
Yeah, I've had to do it before, but I think you'll be all right.
Good man, good man. You talked a little bit about kind of where I'm sitting at today, but some backstory or just to fill in the gaps, add some color to it. I am from East Kentucky. I don't think I have that thick of an accent, but people tell me I do. And anytime I travel, or actually anytime I'm in Kentucky and I meet someone, especially if I'm in Louisville or Lexington, like, where are you from? I'm like, I'm from Kentucky, same place you're from. And then if I travel outside of Kentucky, it's, are you from Alabama? Are you from Texas? All these places.
I'm the same
So
way. The
grew
same
up
way.
same way, man. Your roots run over there in Casey County, so you got some good old boy in the
Yeah.
DNA. In the DNA.
Yeah, I get made fun of for it, even in Nashville. Like I'm in country music city, and
Yeah, yeah.
I still get it. Never mind when I went over. I was in a few weeks ago. I was in Utah for a wedding. Oh gosh, everybody was like, they thought I was all Hillbilly Joe.
Thought you were a coal miner, probably.
Yeah,
Out here, I pick with a pickaxe, but yeah, dude, from East Kentucky, whole family still lives back there. Anybody within close enough relation that's coming to Christmas or Thanksgiving, think aunts, uncles, out to like first, second cousin, they're all back there. Starting to have a little bit of relocation this way. Actually, now that I say that, my sister moved here not too long ago to Lexington, and then my little brother just started at UK, so he's down here. And I think this grandbaby is going to cause some additional Western migrations. within my family. So the whole family, a lot of the family's still back there, dude. I love it back there. Appalachian Mountains, the mountains, that's home. Grew up there, had a couple stints when I was really little where we lived in Chattanooga for a little bit, and 6, 8, maybe a year of my life. And then we lived in Richmond, Kentucky when my parents were finishing up school. But most of my upbringing is there.
Okay.
Went to school at Moorhead after that. Let me back up. Lived there. Parents got divorced when I was 4 or 5. Lived with mom and my stepdad. Stepdad is who took a big hand in raising me, but still got a relationship with my biological dad. We hang out often. We're going to the UK Texas game here this Saturday, I think is the game. So me and dad are still good. Trying to give you some more, man, just to add some color. But again, oldest brother. I got two brothers, 2 sisters. Love them to death. Very close with all of them. And I'm 30. Brooke is 28, and then Carson is 20, and we got an 18-year-old and 16-year-old. So we're spread out. Me and Brooke really grew up together. She is someone who I've got lots of my own childhood memories from because the others really came around when I was entering into teenage years, the most self-centered years, right?
Yeah.
Did not grow up with them the same way I grew up with Brooke, but love all of them, have different relationships with all of them, but I wouldn't change any of how those dynamics are, any of those relationships. They're each very unique and a gift in their own way. So that's the family, my man. And then finish up at good old Sheldon Clark. And I guess somebody didn't donate enough money. No creativity in the name. They built a new high school and just called it Martin County High School. No creativity there. Maybe I'll donate some money someday and they'll throw my name on it. But I was the last graduating class out of that building. And then head to Moorhead. Get to Moorhead, dude, and live that college lifestyle. Do that for about 4 years. And I should add some more color, go back a little bit here, but Jesus was always a part of my life growing up. I think where we live, this region of the country, especially like small town Kentucky, whether it's Casey County or Martin County, Christianity is the prominent religion, right? If you ask somebody what they are, they're going to say, oh, I'm a Christian. Whether they are a true follower, a disciple of Jesus Christ, or they're just saying that because that's what everyone else says. We grew up in church. We were not 4 out of 4 Sundays a year, but we went most of the time, I'd say. Jesus was very much talked about. Praying over meals was very normal. Praying for people was very normal part of my upbringing. I had some aunts that often prayed over me when I was either getting ready to go back to Moorhead for the weekend or just about to have a big event in my life. They still do. I'm certain they still do. They still pray for me and pray over me. So Jesus was always around, bro, in my life. But you've probably heard this before. There's the crowd, and then there's the disciple. The crowd, in the biblical text when Jesus was teaching, they were the people that were just curious. Who's this Jesus guy? What's this miracle? I'd like to be healed too. And then there was the crowd over here, the folks that we know as the disciples, the people that committed their life to him.
Mm-hmm.
For the first 20, let's just use round numbers and say 25 years of my life, I was in the crowd. Very curious about Jesus, never doubted his existence, always believed that Jesus was real and he was here on earth. The miracles were real, all the things, but was not a follower. Was just generally curious, or he was my break glass emergency God, where, hey, I need something, big man. Then I'd hit my knees in prayer. Hey, I need some help here. Then I hit my knees in prayer. There was knowing him in my mind, but no relationship with him. I didn't really know him in my heart. He had not taken root in my heart yet, and he had not started to transform how I lived and how I chose to conduct my life until a couple years after Moorhead. That gets you to probably 23, 24, big man.
What would you, talking about living the college lifestyle, I would say a majority, I don't know the exact ages of my average age range, but I'd say a really good amount of people that may listen to this podcast, and definitely the majority of people that I interact with on a daily basis, they are living that college lifestyle. They enjoy that, and they want to be wrapped up in that, especially being in Nashville, Tennessee, like I am. Broadway is only a mile and a half away from my campus. There's a lot
Yeah.
of temptation there. Definitely a lot more than Podunk Moorhead.
Podunk, man. Hey, that's prime time.
Prime time. I've been up there. That's Podunk. That's little leagues, man.
Little leagues, little leagues.
Little leagues.
Good stepping stone for Martin County. Big step up from Inez, Kentucky. I'll tell you that. I'll take you to my hometown sometime.
That's good. But what were your words of wisdom, or really, let's go a reframe
Mhm.
mindset away from that college lifestyle that you were referring to? Something that you'd be like, hey, man, if you saw somebody that was deeply in that, deeply in love with that, especially in the big city of Nashville, what would you say to them to encourage them, maybe give them a reframe and potentially help them?
Yeah, it's I think a big piece of fleeing from sin, resisting sin, and guarding against sin, being in the Word, knowing the truth, like knowing what the text says, having some biblical grounding. What are you building your life off? And then second to that, who are you surrounding yourself with? Do you have good community? Do you have older men pouring into you? I would strongly encourage 18-year-old Blake to find somebody 25, 28, 30-year old, somebody that's just removed from that season and seek out their guidance and counsel. Scripture even talks about seeking out wise counsel, having counsel around you. So I would strongly encourage people to find a godly mentor, not just in the business sense, but somebody who is living out their faith. And that doesn't necessarily need to be a pastor, somebody that's clergy, went to seminary, but somebody that's walking the walk and it's matching their talk. And then getting really plugged in. A lot of these colleges have some type of student Christian program, or I shouldn't say program, but almost a church on campus. You know what I'm talking about, where you can get plugged into your own age biblical community where iron sharpening iron. Hey, we're in the same season of life, and there's a good likelihood that mean you're going to be struggling with the same type of temptations. The temptations you're facing right now, Big Lucas, are different than the temptations I'm facing. Just by the fact that you're in a different season of life than I'm in. You're in a different city than I'm in. Your proximity to Nashville and the temptations that are there are greater than, I shouldn't say greater, but just different. You're in a different seat than I'm sitting in. So making sure you got some guys, especially for you, some guys that are helping guard your heart. We've got to guard our own heart as well, but having some dudes out there that are just calling you up and helping you walk that out, helping you walk your faith out. That'd be what I would say.
Is that what you got into when your faith started really becoming real for you?
Yeah. Yeah. Was living in North Carolina in a relationship I shouldn't have been in,
Mm.
and then moved back to Lexington. And at that point, when I was in North Carolina and a couple years before that, I would describe myself as a lukewarm Christian. Probably best case, I'm a lukewarm Christian. And in probably a lot of ways, I'm being a total hypocrite. But after that relationship had ended, coming back to Lexington, I'm like, no more lukewarm Blake, no more half-hearted follower. I'm going all in. So I start looking around for a small group. My church that I was attending and still do attend, they talk about all the time being in groups. Being in groups is important. I go to a big church and it really helps it make it feel small. And then the community aspect that I'm speaking to earlier or spoke to earlier, that's how you get plugged in, is being in a group with a group of guys or in a couples group, depending on the season or your margin, where you can really have meaningful relationships with folks. So I find a group called Fight Club that Southland is hosting. A guy leads it. It's approximately 12 weeks. You meet every Monday night, and this is long, bro. It's a couple hour long group where he teaches, and then you go to your small group table, and he teaches, and you go to your small group table. And this is for a couple weeks on end. But I get in that group, and I feel very strongly that God had really put that table together. I'm very close with a lot of those guys still. There's a guy that I met out of that group that married me and my wife. There's a guy out of that group that mentors me. And there's several of those guys that I have called since I met them back in 2022 and just got their advice on different things. And this was a table of guys ranging from, I think I was the youngest, and I was probably 27, up to you probably got a guy at that table at 50. But looking around the room, you've got guys younger than me at different tables and guys older than 50. So I got plugged in there, man, and it really set up a nice model for me. And I saw a lot of fruit come out of it early, and that positive reinforcement started to take effect where it's like, hey, I did this, a good thing happened, let's do it again. And it matches up with not only what the Bible teaches, but what my church is advocating or supporting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was funny. One of the first things that Jesus did when he engaged in his ministry, one of the first things that he did was not grow a following per se. I don't think following would do them justice, but he built a community of his own with his 12 disciples. Is one of
Yeah.
the first things he did. His order was he got baptized and then he got tested in the wilderness. And I
Mm.
think it was after that testing is when he went out and started calling Peter and Matthew and all the disciples. He didn't call them all at once, but
Yeah.
he started calling them.
Yeah.
And I look at the story of Jesus and I look at the way that he did it. And the way that he did it has so much meaning and so much importance. That's why baptism is such an important sacrament because Jesus started his ministry like when it was officially recognized as started in Matthew 3 when he got baptized.
Yeah.
This is when he really started to go into it. He got baptized. God called him his beloved son, with who he's well pleased. And then he
Yeah.
went out into the wilderness and fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. And then he got tested by the devil when he was at his weakest, when he was basically on death's rope. You don't eat for 40 days and 40 nights, you're about to die. You're
Oh,
weak.
yeah. You're dragging. Yeah.
I don't think I could live if I did that. I fasted for 24 hours once, one day and one night, and that wasn't pleasant. I didn't enjoy that at all. Never mind times 40. And then he built community around him. And
Yeah.
while they weren't peers by any means, they were people that he had around and that supported him, that were with him, that helped him in some senses,
Hmm.
especially after his death and resurrection. They really helped because they really were the ones that dug deep and spread it. I think, what, 11 of the 12 of them were brutally killed, murdered, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
10 of them were martyrs. Judas committed suicide, and there was one that was exiled to an island but wasn't martyred per se.
It was, that's so funny you talk about that. We were talking about that at church. I just have my notes here, but he was that guy. It's one of the two sons. You remember where the lady comes up to Jesus and says, "Hey, can these two sons sit at your left and right? Can you drink from the cup I'm going to drink from?" You know what I'm talking about, that story? Some Bible commentators believe that was Jesus's aunt, and those were two of his cousins. One of those guys was the one that got sent to an island. He was boiled alive, bro, and kept on living. And church or the sermon yesterday was talking about like death and suffering, and it was tying it and dying to yourself. But that disciple suffered. He lived the longest of the disciples, and he was sent out to that island. Sorry, not to take you off topic, but yeah, I don't know his name. Maybe it was Matthew or Mark.
I don't think it was either of those two, but I don't think I remember that he was boiled alive and survived.
Yeah, yeah. You
Like,
talk about a tough dude, and they're
yeah,
like, "I guess we can't kill him. Let's just send him to this island."
yeah, absolutely. That's so even then, every disciple endured some near fatal, if not totally fatal, punishment. Like, and
Lots of suffering and death. Yeah,
you just don't do that for a lie. You
no,
just don't. But the point is the whole community aspect of it. It's carrying things on, right? Like my friends, so like my friends feed into me, and I carry on that, and I repeat that, and I continue to feed that and push that forward. I
yeah,
pour into them, and then they do the same. And
yeah.
it's just Kobe Bryant defines greatness as the ability to inspire the person next to you.
Mm.
And then they inspire another person who inspires another. It's not something that lives and dies with you.
No. A couple of things to add to that. Jesus, and he gives us the blueprint, bro. Like we don't have to guess.
Mhm.
He gives us the model. He
Yeah.
gives us the model out there. The gospel's laid out really nicely. Some of the guys in the Old Testament that are foreshadowings to Jesus, like the Davids of the world, who are the aspiration should not to be more like David, but should to be more like Jesus. And David is pointing an arrow to Jesus. So qualities within David where you're like, hey, I want more of that. Jesus has more of that in a more perfect form, if that
Hmm.
makes sense. And then I found this out actually not too long ago. So Jesus started his earthly ministry when he was around 30. And the disciples, the young fellas he went and pulled off the fishing boat and all the other guys he gathered up, these guys are in their late teens, early 20s. So again, when you think about the model of pouring your cup out, so you get your cup filled up, somebody pours into you, Jesus pours into you, your pastor at church pours into you, Barry Barrett pours into you, and you take that cup and you pour it out. And it doesn't always have to be downstream age wise. Jesus did do that, but he spoke to many people that were much older than him and taught them. So I believe at all times you should be being poured into, and formal, maybe informally, but you should have somebody that you're probably meeting with on a regular basis that's investing in you.
Hmm.
And then you should be doing the same to another guy. It's probably going to be received better, just typically the age men you are by a younger dude. Maybe a 45-year-old not going to let Blake or Lucas pour into him.
Probably not.
Probably not. Probably not. Maybe he would. Maybe he'll listen to some things
I,
we have to say.
yeah, I've been shocked before.
Yeah, I've been wrong before. I've been wrong many times, really. Not even just a one off, but yeah, man. He sets the blueprint and then he's just very relational. Jesus is, again, he models that. He picked up those 12, and there's probably a reason it wasn't 40, because you could make an argument, hey, if I go get 40 disciples, we could go do this faster. That's where my mind goes. I'm like, how efficient could I make this? How big could I make this? But he also didn't get just one. There has to be a reason for that. Now, I don't know the exact reason, but it's got to be where that 12 number, you're in a position where, hey, I can have a real deep, meaningful relationship with these guys in a real way, not just a surface level where I know 40 dudes' names and birthdays, but hey, I know their struggles. I know how they're wired. I know how I can love them well and pour into them well.
Yeah, absolutely. Where would you tell people that they could look for mentors like that? 'Cause you talked about mentorship, like going to somebody, meeting somebody older than you weekly or at least periodically whenever you need it, so
Yeah.
that they can pour into you. Where would you go and find a mentor like that to go help somebody do that?
It depends on what you're looking for. The context is important, right? Now, I'm a believer you should be looking for a man who is after God's own heart, somebody pursuing Jesus, somebody loving their family, serving his wife well, serving his children. I'm looking for a guy modeling what I want to model, right? You can have multiple mentors, is what I'd also say,
Mm.
because somebody could do one piece of what I just listed really well. And hey, I want to model that. And he may do some other things that maybe I'm not trying to model necessarily, because all of us are broken and flawed in some way. There's areas where God has sanctified me and refined me in some ways that I probably could be a good model for somebody. And then there's some areas he's still doing quite a bit of work in.
Mhm.
So I would not limit yourself to having one person pour into you, but definitely having some people pour into you. I went to paid events where the ideas around like leadership development, right, or networking. I went to that stuff, and I love all that stuff, dude. I'm hardcore extroverted, wired. We were with people all day yesterday for something for my daughter at the church, and I got back to my house and I was ready to work out. And my wife, who's very introverted, ready to take a nap, right? So I get very energized by being around people. But that being said, I have found the guys that have really taken root in my life and I believe are going to be impact players or long term people in my life when I went out and served or humbled myself to go into maybe an uncharted area, right? So that men's group that I referenced earlier, I met a guy there who mentors me and pours into me from that group. I didn't pay to go to that group. I'd stepped out of my comfort zone to go into that group. And truthfully, I wasn't really seeking mentorship, but God kind of lined that up. And then I would say your dad is another older man that pours into me. I met him at an Emmaus walk, bro, while I was serving there. Not at a paid event, not at a networking event, didn't meet Barry at anything like that. I met him in a scenario where I'm serving and we just started up a conversation. Same with your Uncle Mike, who has also been very good to me. And then I've been very fortunate. My stepdad really has been a great mentor to me. But to answer your original question, you've got to go out and you can do that by serving is probably the way I would start. Go serve, go join a group and expand it beyond just your age bracket.
Yeah. I've been blessed with having a ton of great mentors at my disposal in life.
Yeah.
I grew up with one. I've
Yeah.
got extended family that are some like I people teachers that taught me in school. I have so many people that have been able to mentor me and that I've gotten just from growing up as Barry's boy, right?
Yeah.
So many. But there are people that don't really have that. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people out there that don't have a good dad. And your dad is your first mentor. If you're a son, your dad is your first mentor.
I agree.
And a lot of dads out there are just not great mentors. They're not men that you'd want to look up to. They're not men that you'd want to be. And you start figuring that out. And if they're not a good dad, you start figuring that out probably call it teenage years. Get into high school, maybe later bit of middle school, you start figuring out I
Yeah.
don't really want to be my dad. And unfortunately, that leads people on a road that will take them to the place they want to avoid.
Yeah.
We start getting to things, and doing whatever. And so the whole thing of mentorship, there are mentors everywhere, even if they may not be in your daily life. I'd look for them maybe in a professor, maybe in a teacher. And if you don't have anybody around you in your circle or in just in your personal life that you think can be a good mentor,
Yeah.
then you know what? Let's go look up some, just for the sake of it, go look up some good dudes that you think are on social media. There's some good ones out there. Tim Tebow is a really good. I love the work that he's doing right now with, oh gosh, I love the work that Tim Tebow's doing right now. There's Tebow, there's Janko, there's Living for His Glory podcast if you're
Yeah.
interested
Yeah.
in
That guy's
that.
good.
We do our best. There's an apologetist named Cliff Connectley. He's really good if you want to learn about apologetics, which is using evidence and logic and reasoning to defend the faith.
Yeah.
The late Charlie Kirk, I'd say, is a good person to listen to for most parts. And I know social media is a dangerous world. People warn against it, and I would too. There's a lot of bad stuff out there, but there is some good stuff. There is some beneficial stuff. Go look up people that have achieved what you're trying to achieve and just get the free social media that they put out there.
Yeah.
It's low-hanging fruit. It's an easy thing to go chase or to go do. And from there, you can build off that. And from there, if you go and do that, and you go listen to these people, podcast is a great free enterprise to get into. YouTube Shorts, the Reels, all the social media. There's such a great way to change your mind to be like that.
Yes.
Ed Milet's a really good one. I forgot about Ed Milet. Ed Milet's a really good dude to go to. I'd recommend his podcast 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then from there, once you get more familiar with that mindset and you start getting into it, you'll start seeing, oh my gosh, this person's like, this person in my life can be my mentor. Or maybe you're going to put yourself in a mindset where you start meeting people like that. And now it becomes a personal thing. And they're directly pouring into you instead of a general audience that you happen to be a part of.
I'm hearing you talk a lot about, as to sum it up, you can learn from anywhere. There's somebody you can learn from anybody in some capacity.
That's right.
There's like you said, this thing can be harmful, but it can also be a great tool. And you hit it on the head, man. Podcasts, there's some great guys out there being bold with their faith and not embarrassed of it and putting it out on social media, which is a place where it's, I'll say, not praised, probably is probably a good way to describe it. It's just not. So they're being bold and putting it out there. When you were talking, Dave Ramsey is a guy that comes to mind for me
Mm,
because I listen to a lot of his stuff, just my finance background, and then I just like all that stuff. But he's an entrepreneur who is very bold with his faith. He's very bold with it on air, on his podcast, on his shows. He comes and speaks at churches, and he's not clergy. He's not a pastor. He's an entrepreneur, and is very entrepreneurial minded. But this dude's out here spreading the gospel through those means. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Keep doing that, Dave.
yeah, 100%. He's a good one. I can't believe I forgot about him. He's a good
Gotta
one.
get gotta give Dave a shout, man. Gotta give
Oh yeah.
Ramsey a shout.
Yeah, we like that information. Like we live in an information-packed world, and there's only getting more.
Oh yeah,
We only are
it
getting more.
there's no excuse for access to it. We have
No.
access to all the knowledge all the information we would want to get hold of. We can get hold of with a smartphone and free McDonald's Wi-Fi. You got
Yeah.
access to what
That,
kings used to only have access to.
that's right. That's right.
More.
We live in a world also today where people they get caught up in the wrong things. They make tools
Mm,
idols. I think a good one is feelings. Feelings are a great indicator, but they're a horrible dictator. I'm a very feeling guy. I'm a very emotional guy. But I
yeah.
understand that if they become a dictator for my life, things go bad very fast.
Yeah.
You talked about the phone being a tool. It's a great tool. It is a horrible Lord. And people make it their Lord. People make it their Lord, and it becomes what people warn against. It becomes a way, like your phone in a large point, in a large part, is a way that you take in what you worship. Because so many men, they worship lust and they worship women and they worship the sex life. And so when they look at their phone, when they look at their Instagram or their TikTok feed or whatever feed that they're using, it's probably a bunch of women dancing around, tight clothing, if you know, any clothing at all, and doing that. I open my phone, I open my reels and my TikToks, I'll see Cliff Connectley on there. I'll see, oh, you know that black pastor, Philip Anthony Mitchell. Have you heard him?
No,
He's
no,
so
maybe I
good.
have, but his name doesn't ring a bell.
I gotta send him to you. He drops bars. He's good. He's very good. I'll see him. I'll like that kind of thing. I'll see some NBA stuff. I'll see some NFL stuff. Not bad stuff, right?
You
But
know,
it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be 100% Jesus realm. Like, man, if you see anything that's not directly Christ on there, then you're a sinner and you're whatever. But as long as it's not like if it's either glorifying to God or at the very least not going against his word, then like, it's not a terrible thing to have on there.
right?
Another big one that people like to worship is money. That one is covered in the Bible. They didn't have social media in the Bible. They didn't have phones in the Bible. Jesus couldn't directly talk about that just because it wasn't around. But they didn't have money.
Yeah.
Money, man. Being in a Christian school and in the religion department of that Christian school, being in the heart of what they believe and being taught it, the connotations against money, they kill me sometimes because money is not this inherent bad thing. I grew up from a family that had wealth, that had financials in check, and they are still growing. That's what the majority of my childhood experience was. I've been very blessed with that. And so when I hear people, especially in my schools and just even around talking bad about those that have gained wealth, I'm like, so what does that mean that I'm condemned because I grew up that way or that my dad's condemned for having that? Is that what that means? Are we really going to go there? And I just don't see that as the case because while my dad does have great finances, it's not his master. It's
That's it.
Yeah, it's not. It has been before, but it's not.
Right.
Definitely not now. It definitely hasn't been for a while now, right? When money becomes your master, you're in trouble. When money becomes your tool, you can have as much as you want. King Solomon was the son of King David, who was a man after God's own heart, who we were talking about earlier. King Solomon got into a lot of stuff that became a worship for him, but he
Mhm.
was the wisest man to ever live. And it's no coincidence that the wisest man to ever live was also the wealthiest man to ever live. That's no coincidence. Yes, it got him in trouble, but we can learn from from Solomon. We know he was wise and wealthy before he began his life of sin, of polygamy, of all of that. That negative view of things that are tools, like it becomes negative when it's a master, but tools are something to be used. If we are intent on not using a tool, or at least not in the sense of using it well, we're wasting resources. We are, even for the kingdom of God.
So I've been in Exodus a little bit lately. Really, you've been curious about Moses because
Mhm.
dude lived a life.
Yeah, he
I mean,
did.
you don't have to study very hard. You're like, whoa, this guy's got a pretty wild path.
Yeah.
A lot to be taken from him, but the recently read about he goes up on the mountain and they make the golden calf. And I think in 2025 and probably the last 100 years, probably longer, but we think we've evolved so much where we don't have idols. We think we're enlightened or just so much smarter than those guys. Oh, that's from way back then. We'd never do that now. Never. I have a I've never had a golden calf, but I definitely have had other idols in my life. All of us do. You said a couple things related to idols. I think three things will burn a man's life down to the ground quick. It's lust, lust, love of money, caveat there, love of money, and then I put alcohol slash drugs. Those
Mhm.
three things will wreck a man's life very quickly. And those three things I think are primarily the idols that men place in their life. Each to a different degree. Some may have no problem with drugs or alcohol, but they love women and money. Or they don't have any problem with lust, but man, they're out here to get a dollar at any expense, at anybody. If anybody gets in the way, they're going to get thrown to the wayside through the path. These are things when you talked about earlier, you're like, hey, I'm an emotional guy, but we can't let our emotions drive us. You can't let that monkey brain, that monkey part of your brain drive you. There's reacting, which is when you let your emotion drive you, and then there's responding, which is when you take a clear cognitive approach or you at least think on it, right? How am I processing this? And when you look at, again, back to the Israelites, when you looked at their life and their loving of the golden calf, Moses calls it out. Hey, this is not the right way to go. But in their mind, they're like, we need this. We need this golden calf. Men, women, all of us, we're like, we need that particular sin. We need that beer, or we need that extra comma in our bank account. We need to be very sexually active, whatever it is. And these are the things you've got to guard against, man. Again, attraction to women is not a bad thing if you're a guy. God wired us like that in the right context. Sex is not bad in the right context, in the context of a marriage with your one wife. That same act done at 2 in the morning after you walk back from Broadway,
Mm,
they're similar, but they're also very
yeah.
different. With a little observation, you can see the distinct difference, and you can see how one could wreak havoc on your heart posture, and how one could be an opportunity to give God the glory and thank Him for a good gift.
Yeah.
Same thing with money that you were alluding to earlier. My mom and dad have done very well, and I don't think that in inherently makes it sinful. Same thing you're talking about your family history, but it's the love of money. And I've loved money, bro. I still definitely have a sin problem with money. I'll call that out here on the pod. And there's guardrails I'm trying to put up and place around that, but it's certainly not been defeated. So if your listeners hear anything, whether they're walking with Jesus already, or if somebody stumbles across this podcast, hey guys, the goal is to run after Jesus wholeheartedly. We're not going to be without sin here. You read the rest of that text, you read the rest of this book, and everybody in there has sinned outside of Jesus. Everybody in there has dropped the ball real hard, bro. You
Yeah.
you talk about King David, who is described as a man after God's own heart, but had his best friend killed in battle and then slept with his wife. I'm like, hey, what about this guy? And then you read about Paul in the New Testament, who I would describe as a fierce warrior for the kingdom. Fierce warrior for the kingdom. Talks about, I don't do what I want to do, and I do what I don't want to do, and this thorn in his side. And I'm like, this man loved the Lord. Fierce for the gospel. But sin, for lack of a better word, it's almost inevitable. It doesn't absolve us from running and fleeing from sin. I don't have social media on my phone for a reason. I don't have any social media
Good
outside
thing.
of LinkedIn, and that's for work.
Yeah.
And that's intentional and very intentional, because I've got to put up some guardrails against things that have been idols at different seasons of my life.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
I needed accountability 3 years ago when I was first breaking free of lust, and the chain of pornography was me. That's
Yeah.
what I was in. That was 3 years ago now. I'll have officially started that journey of breaking free from that. It'll be 3 years ago on November 19th.
Let's go.
Yeah, oh yeah. I say started the journey because I didn't finish that journey for about a year and a half. It took me about 18 months to overcome it.
Okay.
That was after I went through the Rise Up Kings experience, and I went through that and I gained some new vision and I gained some very new conviction that was a lot stronger than my old one. And I
Mhm.
gained some brothers that held me accountable whenever I was weak.
That's
And
good.
oh yeah, the thing about the accountability, like nobody knows unless you tell them.
Yeah.
And if you're a man struggling with pornography, let me tell you,
Yeah.
I'm a man who, when I first decided to break free of that 3 years ago, November 19th, I told my youth pastor, of course, because you tell your pastor, right? I
Yeah.
told my mom and I told my dad. I looked at my mom in her eyes and I told her this. I looked at my dad in his eyes and I told him this. But I was addicted to
Good.
this. And I was ready to break free from that. That's a hard conversation. But I also told my girlfriend at the time. And there ain't nothing. No, there's been almost nothing that's been as painful as when I told my girlfriend at the time that I was wrapped into this, and I thought I was, in my naivete, I thought I was going to marry this girl. And I understand that it wasn't supposed to work out now as a 21-year-old, but when I was 18, man, I was all in. I was ready. I was willing to sacrifice anything kind of deal. And I told her, and she left me on the spot.
Yeah.
And what that relationship ended completely. We were done. It's hard to tell people. And I wrestled with it took me 18 months to overcome it for a reason.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really want to tell anybody anymore. My parents knew, I told a couple really close friends of mine, but that lasted a couple months maybe, and then I was right back into it. And then all
Yeah.
the guilt and shame came back of, man, like this is why she left you, bro, kind of thing.
Enemy comes to beat you up.
Yeah, and then you just go back into it because you feel guilt and shame, you want to escape that, you go right back into that dopamine hit.
Yeah, it's a place of comfort.
It
Yeah.
is. And like finally got resolved. It finally became real for me when I gained that brotherhood and Rise Up Kings. Like
Yeah.
that really, and we have another event, the Crucible. There's another Crucible, 18 to 26 year olds. It's next month. I can't wait. I really can't wait. I don't think I'll be able to make it down to it to volunteer. If a few more people sign up, then I think I can. But it's such a good event. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. I love it. I love it so much.
Yes.
Just gaining that brotherhood and what that's meant for me over the last year and a half since I've been through it, and what that's meant for my family and like everything, like the boys and brothers that I met that I go to whenever things get tough. Like even now, if I ever have a lustful thought, I go to them. And we
Mm.
keep the accountability there. And accountability only works with full transparency.
Yes. Yes.
But we don't want to be transparent, do we?
It's tough, bro.
It's
It
tough. It's
takes,
hard.
it's hard. It's hard. I'm sure people even listening can feel the weight, can feel the heaviness of you in that room telling your mom and dad that,
It's really
telling your
deep.
girlfriend that. It takes a certain type of man to go do that. And of course, your audience here, we're calling people up. We're calling boys to be men. You don't want to be a boy that can shave.
Yeah,
You don't age into manhood, is what I believe. You step into manhood. You pursue manhood as you pursue Jesus, and that's heavy to do. But you're absolutely right. It doesn't do anything to give people just a bunch of lip service. I don't think Scripture tells us to confess to one another so that Lucas can forgive me my sins. It's not like that. You can't forgive me. Jesus is my high priest. Jesus forgives me. We confess to him, but the confessing to another brother, I think it ties into bearing each other's burdens. It lets somebody in to, that they can speak truth to you if the enemy or your own mind starts to tell lies
that's
to
right.
yourself. You can go back to this person who really knows you, who really knows the battle you're in, and you can just have some brother stand in the gap with you.
Absolutely. The accountability and the brotherhood that I've gained with those guys and with my journey, and I see how that, and just reflecting on the hardships that I went through when I was breaking free. That's our
Mm,
mission statement over at Living for His Glory, helping people break free of the worldly chains and stepping into the people that God has created them to be.
that's good. That's real good. I love that.
Yeah, I took some time to think about that.
That wasn't Chat GBT.
No, it was not. Nope. That's not Chad. That was
That's good.
fully Bible, fully Jesus, fully Holy Spirit giving me ideas, not me.
Good. Okay.
But
All right. Let's go.
yeah, but it ties into me because I
Mhm.
broke free of that chain
Yeah.
and I am actively still stepping into the man that God's called me to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that chain, when you break a chain, sometimes you get cut. When you have to cut off a chain, sometimes you can't cut it off cleanly. Sometimes you got to cut yourself a little bit. Sometimes you get hurt by cutting off a chain, but you get free.
Yes.
The thing about Jesus is I don't know if you ever read the Bible, but Jesus, if you've read the Bible, has some pretty cool healing powers to the point where not only was he raised from the dead, but he also raised another man, Lazarus, from the dead.
Yeah.
If Jesus can do that, then can you imagine the healing that he can give you after that chain was broken? You may have gotten
Mm.
hurt when that chain was broken. I certainly was. I lost an important relationship at the time in my life.
Yeah.
I did. Like that hurt, that cut me, that caused a bunch of cycles of dysfunction in my life. I started showing up in some dysfunctive ways and some negative ways that I didn't before.
Yeah.
But Jesus healed me of that. And Jesus used my brothers to do that. Brotherhood community, like there's a point, like, it can cover a multitude of sins.
Mhm.
Like
Amen.
by being a good brother and being a good steward of Christ to somebody else and showing them God's love, you can do a work that I think is our main purpose here. Like our main purpose, God can reveal himself at any time to anybody and change their life forever. But we're here because God wants to use us in that and invite us into that mission and into
Hmm.
that purpose of making heaven full, of making heaven
Yes.
crowded.
Make it crowded.
And so when we engage that mission, we are not what saves somebody, but we play a part, a vital part in what
Mhm.
has allowed them to be saved and what Jesus uses in us to work that saving grace.
It talks about in scripture like the love the Lord your God with all your heart,
Mhm.
love your neighbor.
Yeah.
So you boil all the text down. I think it really just, if I boil it all the way down, love God and love his people.
Yeah.
Love me and love my people. And you can love his people in a ton of different ways, bro. In the ways you're talking about, where you're just making yourself available
Yeah.
for somebody to dump something out to.
Yeah.
15-minute phone call. Let somebody be somebody's accountability partner. Meet up. You don't even have to meet up. A phone call on Monday for 10, 15 minutes. It don't even have to be that long, but just,
Absolutely.
hey, let's just check in here. Let me bear this with you. Let me love you the way Jesus loves you.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's a cool. I think that's a really cool challenge of the week for us this week. Let Jesus use you. Let
Yeah.
Jesus cover your life. Let Jesus cover your life. Let the love that he shows us,
Yeah.
the love that he shows us, let's pour that back into somebody else.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
we talked about that through mentorship earlier. We
Hmm.
talked about that through just being open to people, being available for people, being someone that they know that they can rely on and talk to, and it be safe, it be confidential, and it be godly, and it be loving. And
Yes.
sometimes people look for love and they're looking for affirmation and comfort. That's not what
Right.
love is.
It's grace
Love
and
is
truth. Grace
yes.
and truth.
Yes, it is. When I love, like the brothers that I talked about earlier that have helped me, I've also helped. And let me tell
Mm.
you, when they are pouring into me and I'm pouring into them, we love each other very much. But
Yeah.
man, sometimes we deliver some right hooks.
Heavy. Something's heavy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, man, I'm gonna call you up from that. That ain't cool. Don't do that, dude. Hey man, that's not the man that I know that you are. That's not the man that God created you to be, that God wants you to be. I'm gonna call you up from that, man. And I appreciate and I love you. Thank you so much for being transparent with this. It shows that you want to change. And I'm just gonna say, hey man, I know that's wrong, and I'm gonna help you in any way that I can, in any way that you allow me to, so that you can break free of that chain.
My wife says all the time, we don't want to call people out. We want to call people up.
Yeah,
So call a brother up this week. Love them well and deliver grace and truth.
absolutely.
Grace and truth.
Call a brother this week, whether it be mentorship or just being there for him. Call him up. That's good. Love it.
Yeah.
Give him that truth and give him that love.
Yes, sir. Love it.
Awesome. Blake, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I can't wait. I can't wait for this to release. This was awesome.
Hey, man, thanks for asking me to be on. I appreciate the good work you're doing for the kingdom. You're only 21, right?
Yes, sir. Just turned 21.
But you are a warrior for the gospel. So
Yes,
keep
sir.
doing good things, and we'll link up soon.
Yes, sir. Can't wait. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Living for His Glory. I had such an amazing time making it, and I really hope it connected and impacted you on a significant level. I love making and recording episodes like these. I truly believe that they fulfill the Living for His Glory mission, which is to help you break free of your worldly chains and step into the person that God has called you to be. I love you guys. I hope you guys got a lot out of this. I hope that it changes something about how you do this week. I hope you have a good day and a good week as we continue to get ready for next week's episode. Have a good day, guys, and I'll see you later.